I want you to picture something. It's a day after Christmas, 2025. You're thinking about the housing market in, say, a nice part of Delaware County. You pull up the median list price for the Garnet Valley School District, and it's sitting at $485,000.
Which sounds about right. I mean, for that area, that's a pretty standard competitive number.
Totally. Makes perfect sense. Now, fast forward just 3 weeks. It's January 23rd. You look at the same number for the same area, and it's not $485,000 anymore. It's over $686,000.
That is a violent jump.
It's a $200,000 increase in less than a month. My first thought would be, the app is broken.
Or there was some kind of glitch in the data feed.
Exactly. But if you look at the reports we have in front of us today, it's not a glitch. It's actually a perfect lesson in how real estate data can, well, lie to you if you don't know what you're looking at.
And that's really what we're going to dig into today.
It is. This is our deep dive. We're looking at this super specific, very volatile window of time, late December 2025 through January 2026, in one of PA's most sought-after school districts. We're using a stack of market reports from the SEER team, plus some news on taxes and school rankings.
And the big question is, did this market actually get 40% more expensive overnight, or is there something else going on under the hood?
Well, spoiler alert for you listening. Don't panic. Your house probably did not just gain $200,000 in equity. But the real story is actually way more interesting. Let's start with what we're calling the sticker shock. Walk me through this timeline, because it's just wild.
It really is. So, okay, let's set that baseline. December 26th, 2025. The SEER team data has the median list price at $485,000. The average is a bit higher, around $603,000.
Okay, wait, let's pause there. For anyone who maybe slept through stats class, the difference between median and average is important, right?
It's immensely important, yeah. The average price gets dragged up by the really expensive houses. The median is just the one smack in the middle.
So if you have a few mansions, the average looks high, but the median tells you what the typical house is going for?
Exactly. So that $603,000 average tells us there are already a few pricey homes on the market, but the middle of the pack is still under $500,000.
Okay, got it. So what happens next?
So 2 weeks later, January 9th, the median creeps up to $522,500. Not too crazy.
A little bump, normal.
But then you hit late January. The median just shoots to $686,520. And the average, that goes to over $781,000.
All right, stop. I mean, when we talk about a hot market, we're talking about maybe 5–10% a year. This is 40% in a few weeks. What is happening? Is this some kind of bubble?
No, and this is the absolute key takeaway. This is not appreciation. This is a shift in inventory mix.
Inventory mix. Explain what that means.
Okay, let's use an analogy. Let's say you walk into a bar and it's full of, teachers, construction workers, nurses. The median income in that room is maybe $60,000.
Is that right?
Okay, now a billionaire walks in and sits down. The average income in that room just shot up to like $10 million.
Right.
But did anyone else in the bar actually get any richer?
No. Not at all. Their bank account is exactly the same.
But if you only looked at the average income stat for that room, you'd think it was the wealthiest place on earth.
I see where you're going with this.
That's pretty much what happened in Garnet Valley. The listings range from like $175,000 fixer-upper all the way to a $1.72 million estate. In late January, a bunch of those high-end luxury homes hit the market, and the cheaper ones probably sold off.
So the middle house moved because the bottom of the list disappeared and the top got a lot heavier.
Exactly. It's a statistical illusion.
Yeah.
And it only happens when you have really low volume.
Low volume feels like an understatement when I'm looking at these charts. We have to talk about the supply, because you can't have swings like this if you've got hundreds of homes for sale.
You can't. A big sample size smooths everything out. But here, the inventory is razor thin.
How thin are we talking?
We use a metric called months of inventory, or MOI. It basically asks, if no new homes were listed for sale starting today, how long would it take to sell everything?
And what's a normal healthy market?
A balanced market is about 6 months of supply.
Okay. And Garnet Valley?
It hovered between 1.0 and 1.3 months.
Wow. Barely 4 weeks of houses.
Think about that. The entire school district would be sold out in about 30 days if nothing new came on.
That is so stressful if you're a buyer.
It is. I mean, at one point in December, there were only 28 active listings.
That's it. 28 houses for the whole district.
For the whole district. So, going back to our point, when you only have 28 data points, if a couple of $1 million plus homes come on the market, your median price graph looks like a hockey stick.
Okay, so I get the math now.
Therefore,
low supply plus new luxury listings equals a scary-looking price jump. But this is where I get really confused.
I think I know where you're going with this.
If buyers are fighting over scraps, if inventory is that tight, sellers should be in complete control, right? They should be naming their price.
That's what the textbook would tell you. Yeah. Scarcity equals leverage for the seller.
But the data in these reports shows something really counterintuitive. It shows a lot of sellers are actually cutting their prices.
It's the great contradiction of this market. You have an extreme seller's market on paper, but a rising number of price reductions in reality.
What are the numbers on that?
On December 26th, about 31% of the listings had a price cut. By the end of January, that number climbs to almost 37%.
More than a third of the market. So 1 out of every 3 sellers is admitting, oops, I asked for too much.
Precisely. And this is all happening while that median price is supposedly going through the roof.
So why? Is it just sellers getting greedy? They see the headlines and get cocky?
It's what we call aspirational pricing. A seller sees that $686,000 median price. They hear about a luxury home selling down the street. They think, well, my house must be worth a fortune now. They list it way too high.
And the buyers just aren't going for it.
They're hitting a wall. Look at the days on market statistic in the report. It's hanging out between 61 and 69 days.
2 months. In a market with a 1-month supply.
It's a lifetime. If a house is priced right in this kind of market, it should have multiple offers in a weekend. 69 days tells you that buyers are looking at these prices and just saying, nope, not for that much.
Or maybe they're saying, I literally can't afford that.
I can't is probably the more accurate way to put it. And there's a very specific, very painful reason that just popped up that explains why.
Let me guess. Taxes.
The tax man. Yep. We have to bring in that December 16th report from WHYY. The Delaware County Council approved a major property tax hike.
And this wasn't just a little adjustment, was it?
Oh, no, it was 23%.
23%. That is massive.
It's a budget buster. So imagine you're a buyer. You're stretching to afford a $700,000 house because you desperately want into the Garnet Valley schools, which are, top 5 in the state. That's the big prize.
Right, you're doing it for your kids. You're willing to be house poor for a few years to get into that district.
But then your lender recalculates your monthly payment with that new tax rate, and your payment just jumped by a huge amount. It might literally push your debt-to-income ratio too high. You might not even qualify for the loan anymore.
So the sellers are seeing the low inventory and thinking jackpot, while the buyers are looking at the new taxes and thinking, I'm out.
And that price cut is the market trying to find the middle ground between those two realities. That 37% of sellers cutting prices, that's them waking up to the fact that the tax hike just put a hard ceiling on what buyers can pay.
That makes so much sense. It's not that demand went away, it's that the affordability just got crushed.
Exactly. The desire for the schools is still there, but the wallet is saying no.
So let's turn this into strategy for someone listening. I'm a buyer. I'm looking at this messy situation. What do I do?
You run toward the stale listings. The CIRA team report actually says it directly. Negotiate confidently on homes that have been sitting for 60-plus days.
Because those sellers are getting nervous.
They're nervous, they're tired, they're watching other houses sell while theirs just sits. They know that tax bill is real. That's where a buyer has leverage. Don't get into a bidding war on the brand new shiny listing.
Let everyone else fight over that one. You go for the one that's been on the market since before the holidays.
That is where the deal is. Those are the sellers who are ready to listen to a reasonable offer that might be $20,000 or $30,000 under what they were asking.
Is this a general rule for the whole district, though? Because Garnet Valley covers a few different areas, right? Bethel, Concord.
Yeah, real estate is always hyper-local. The report mentions Bethel and Concord Townships, Chester Heights. And even within those, you have specific developments like Concord Hunt or Fox Hill Farm.
And I'm guessing a hot neighborhood like Concord Hunt might not follow that 60-day rule.
Completely different. A perfect house in a prime neighborhood might still be gone in 48 hours. The stale inventory strategy works best on the houses that are, maybe a little dated or on a slightly busier street.
This is why just looking at a Zillow's estimate can be so misleading, isn't it? It just averages everything together.
It does. It has no idea about neighborhood nuance.
Which brings us back to the source, the Sear team. I mean, looking at their background, Vincent and Jane Sear, they've done 84 transactions just in this school district. They're not just pulling numbers off a website.
Right. That means they know the difference between the neighborhoods. They know that, say, this model in this development always sells for a premium, no matter what the countywide data says.
And the client reviews seem to back that up. One person said they got well over asking, but another one, Sean C., talked about how they protected him as a buyer.
And that protection is usually a realtor telling their client, don't get emotional, this house isn't worth that much, let's wait.
Which has to be hard to hear when you feel like there's nothing else to buy.
It's very hard to hear. But when you see that 37% of listings are getting price cuts, it was probably the right advice.
So let's zoom out. We've got this market in a huge tug-of-war.
That's a great way to put it.
On one rope, you have the amazing schools, top 5 in the state. That's pulling prices up.
For sure. The main driver.
On the other rope, you have this massive 23% tax hike.
Yeah.
That's pulling affordability way down.
And in the middle, you have almost no houses for sale.
Who wins that tug-of-war?
That is the million-dollar question. I mean, usually low inventory is the trump card. If there's nothing to buy, prices have to stay high. But there's always a breaking point. We are seeing that breaking point in those price cuts. The tax hike puts a mathematical limit on what people can pay. You could see prices start to flatten out as sellers are forced to adjust to what buyers can actually get approved for.
It feels like we're at a standoff.
It's a standoff. That's the perfect word. It's not a crash. It's sellers saying, pay my price, and a growing number of buyers saying, I simply can't.
So the takeaway for anyone listening is, don't get spooked by that huge median price number. It's a statistical quirk.
A quirk of low volume and a few luxury listings, yes. And don't let the seller's market label stop you from negotiating.
Especially on a house that's been sitting. If a third of the market is cutting prices, you have more power than you think.
Patience and precision. That's the play.
And for sellers, what's the lesson?
Price it right from day one. The market will punish aspirational pricing right now. Buyers are feeling that tax pinch. They won't overpay just because inventory is low. They can't.
It's a fantastic deep dive. I mean, it really shows how you have to look past the headlines to see what's really going on.
The truth is always in the details.
So here's a final thought to leave you with. We talked about how high prices and high taxes are creating a standoff. But think bigger. At what point does the premium for a top school district become so high, with taxes and all, that it actually becomes unsustainable for the very families it's supposed to attract?
That's a fascinating question. When does the cost of the school premium start to outweigh the actual benefit?
Exactly. Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today. Stay curious, and we'll see you on the next one.